Cam, would you rather have Miller Moss or Aaron McLaughlin to be taken in the 2021 class?
These are quarterback recruits. Miller Moss from California, Aaron McLaughlin from Georgia. The answer is yes. Honestly, they're both 4 stars. They're both very talented guys. Aaron McLaughlin was committed to Auburn. He backed off that commitment. Miller Moss had a great junior season, looks to elevate himself in the national conversation at quarterback this year. Our guy, Roman, good friend of mine, finally came over. He's contributing to State of the U, so he's doing a student of the game QB reports, if you will. So he did one on McLaughlin, and he's working on one for Moss that's going up on the website tomorrow, I believe. So you can kind of look at his breakdown and contrast and compare your personal preference. McLaughlin's a little bit bigger. He's like 6'2", 225, as opposed to Miller Moss, 6'4", 225. Miller Moss is like 6'2", 200 pounds. McLaughlin's a bigger physical guy. I think he has a stronger arm, I want to say, off the top of my head, because I've cursorily watched film. Like, I've glanced at it, I've seen it. I haven't really dug into it like Roman has or like some others have. But right now, either of them would work. There's a kid, Preston Stone, I think his name is, out of Dallas Episcopal. His family are big SMU people. So the thought is he's probably going to go to SMU, where Rhett Lashley used to coach. But that's a kid who at 6'2", 210 pounds is a dual threat guy. So, that's a guy, and he's going to be like a top 5 national quarterback in this class, Preston Stone. So that's a guy that I would love to see Miami get involved with. But right now, we're on a fact-finding mission, and all 3 of those names, the 2 that you mentioned and the one that I added, are great options. And we're at the point where we're selecting. We're not reacting and panicking. So whether you're going to get Moss from California, whether you're going to get McLaughlin from Georgia, whether you're going to get Stone from Texas, or anybody else of similar ilk, you're still getting a blue chip kind of caliber guy. And I think that, it could go a number of ways, but right now I'm open to any of them.
Of course, Cam, you don't need me to filter the questions for you or protect or guard you from certain questions at all. But sometimes I read these questions and I think, my goodness, what these people expect you to answer is a bit much.
Yeah.
We just worked in the 2020 class. And of course, you did the deep dive, and you certainly do that each and every year. I can't imagine. But anyway, I'll serve it up there. Adam B. Kane is asking for the top 3 most important 21 recruits.
Yeah, that's tough. I think that we've already lost one in Marcus Tate from Fort Lauderdale University School, 5-star offensive tackle going to Clemson. So, that's an important one that you didn't get. So now you have to replace that. Andrew Ivins from 247, he wrote a piece about a 5-star tackle. I didn't click on it yet, but he has a relationship with Rhett Lashley, or knows Rhett or whatever from prior. So maybe that's a guy where you can go out of state and get a similar guy. I know people are going to say locally, Braylon Brown, wide receiver from Chaminade, Madonna. That's a school that Miami continually recruits, as does everybody else. And then Ja'Cory Brooks from Booker T. Washington is a freak. Ja'Cory Brooks has been like a nationally known recruit since he was in 7th grade. Like, he's uncommonly big, uncommonly fast. He's a natural pass catcher, nasty feet, easy hips, good routes. If you're talking, so he's not as fast as a Jerry Jeudy or a Calvin Ridley or an Amari Cooper, but the next guy from South Florida is Ja'Cory Brooks. He's that dude. So there's one. You can add in Braylon Brown. You can add in any of the defensive tackles around, whether it's I'm blanking on names even, which is crazy for me. But any of the guys like locally, Anthony Hunley, who used to be at Booker T, who went over to Carroll City. The other kid who's committed to Miami right now at defensive tackle, keeping him in the class. You just got Thad Franklin from Chaminade, gigantic running back at 6'1", 215, who had 335 yards in the state championship game, or 333 yards and 5 touchdowns in the state championship game for Chaminade this past year. He's back in the class. So that's another guy who Miami's gotten. Some people are going to say Terrell Lewis, the linebacker. I'm not personally a fan, and I think that he's more trouble than he's worth. The juice is not worth the squeeze because, of some off the field type things and just the way that he comports himself, and the kid can play. Like, don't get me wrong, but people say, "Oh yeah," like, so I'm not necessarily all on him just because of those reasons. And I wish him well, and I think he's going to be a good player. But I think that he needs a specific place to be put in a situation for success, and I'm not really sure that Miami is that for him. Excuse me, and that's a guy who was at Northwestern and transferred from there to where, I've said it 2 times already, Chaminade, exactly, for reasons. And that's all I'm going to say about that. So I know that you asked for 3, and I've named like 7 people. But yeah, there's a lot of guys locally who are big time recruits, and whether Miami gets them or doesn't is going to impact the recruiting moving forward. So, you know, if you don't get a Marcus Tate, which you're not, because Clemson has not had a decommit since 2016 or 15, whenever it is. And they've had like 2 decommitments in the last decade, and one of them ended up signing with Clemson. The other one went to Auburn. The other one of their 2 decommitments, you're not going to get Marcus Tate. He's going to Clemson. Everybody who commits there invariably goes there. Fine. So now you have to replace them. And I think with some of these other guys that I'm mentioning, and even other guys on top of and beyond the list that I've had, it's a matter of, do you think that they fit? And if you don't get them, then where do you go? If you don't get Braylon Brown and or Ja'Cory Brooks, spoiler alert, I don't think that we're going to get either. And just like with Devontae Williams, I openly invite them to prove me wrong, but I don't see either of them coming to Miami. And those are probably the number 1 and 2 or 1 and 1A receivers down here this year. What are you doing at wide receiver then in the absence of Braylon Brown and Ja'Cory Brooks, in my personal hypothetical at this time? You know what I mean? So, yeah, I mean, there's options out there, but we have so long, miles and miles to go before we sleep. Shout out to Robert Frost for, that poem. But, yeah, miles to go before we sleep, and plenty of recruiting to do. So, those are just some names. Andrew Ivins put up a list of 50 names to know for the 2021 recruiting class. I always do my own list coming up in a little bit, introducing the recruits that are committed, and then doing offense and defensive names to know and just targets on the board. We're going to get there eventually. Just been a little swamped with something extra from the secret day job. So I will get around to, those couple of recruiting things that, I normally do every single year. But yeah, there's lots of names out there. So I'm not going to necessarily keep it to 3, but yeah, we do need to start building the tent poles of this class, or laying the foundation, and then going from there.
Mark and Cam, best night of the week. Appreciate that comment. Austin Canes. I was just curious when Cam was asked about the top 3 recruits, and of course that has to do with the target being Miami and them being in the race for those particular players. But I was interested and intrigued to look up the top 3 overall players according to 247 Sports. Mm-hmm. Corey Foreman out of California, strong side defensive end, rated number 1 player in the nation, committed to Clemson. Boom. Jack Sawyer, strong side defensive end out of Ohio, committed to Ohio State. Yep. Tommy Brockermeyer, offensive tackle out of Texas, split right now according to the crystal ball between Texas and Clemson.
Boom.
That is. All right. FSU region. And also, let's put a capper on the 2 quarterbacks, because I looked up Moss is your 8th rated pro style quarterback in the nation, number 7 prospect out of California, number 62 overall player. Yeah. McLaughlin's number 186, which is still very, very high, number 12 pro style quarterback, 17th rated overall player out of Georgia.